another. So it's pretty fun.
That's
So
amazing, huh?
we went out to
You're breaking up on me. Yeah, I've lost you.
phone speaker. Okay.
That's better.
Yeah. What's going on with my video? I don't know. All right. But yeah, they have these $5 days for the local residents. We just Emerson had never been there, so we went over there. It was so funny. We went over there. Emerson and I rode one ride that the girls didn't want to ride on, and then there was a thunderstorm, so we left after riding one ride. it was the it was the shortest trip I've ever taken to a amusement park in my life. But went out to dinner. Just I don't know. It was a pretty not very eventful day, but I took off so that we could have time together as a family, and that's just how we wanted to spend the anniversary yesterday.
Nice.
We figured we've been tooling around. It's just the two of us quite a bit, so we figured it was a
Yeah.
we figured it's about time to do something with the family.
You've gotten a few days in this year.
Yeah. So, but that was yeah. So that was good. But then I had a couple business related things that I did have to tend to that I kind of wedged in. It was commented on by the rank and file that I was supposed to be off, but I was working. But
Got to sneak in a couple.
yeah, it's like
What's up?
I would say all three of them could have waited till today. So that's like one of those funny things. It's like what you tell yourself. Like I could have just told them to punt, but also they were three things that I didn't want to have to deal with today.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like it made today better because
You're breaking up again.
oh, every day is
Yeah.
me. So I didn't log that I had. Let me do this. All right, I put it. Sometimes my Wi-Fi gets a little bit clippy, so I just put it to the cell
I
tower.
noticed.
Yeah. I put it to the cell tower, and then I shut off the video. So maybe we should be good now. So, but anyway, they yeah. So it was good to get that stuff out of the way. One of the calls was like absolutely wild. It was with a gal that I've talked to before. She's pretty high up in underwriting at Mass, and I was like, um, 1 second here, Bill. Uh, what the freak? On a. All right, sorry. So the yeah, so I've talked to this gal before, and she has this unique ability to answer things that are not the answers to the question. I was just like, I sent her an email because I copied her and I copied Anthony, and I said, this has got to get fixed, because the situation was basically you have two different underwriters, one giving me an approval, the other who is digging her feet in the sand and giving me a fake requirement. And I know I could play along. It's just that it's just that like being asked to go do something that is completely pointless, it just like steals my soul. So I just was like, I just told her I'm not doing that. I said you don't need it. Just give me my underwriting decision, and then we can move this along. And she's like, no, I need to have this. And I was like, okay, what you're asking for and the reason you're asking for it are incongruent. So explain to me how, if I do the task you're asking me to do, how that helps you answer your question. And she's like, well, I just want to see it. I'm like, no, that's not how this is going to work at all. So, so I told this underwriter, and I I told Anthony to fix it. Well, Anthony's like over the next several days is doing the final merge of the two whatever it's agencies,
Hmm.
and his internal compliance officer, because Caden and I got to participate like in an audit on Monday Tuesday timeframe. Um, I was talking to the compliance officer and just saying like I can't move this along, and he goes, well, if you're expecting Anthony to do anything, that's just the wrong expectation anyway, because he's got his head everywhere but where you'd like it to be. And I was like, wow, that's really heartwarming. so so Anthony all says the same thing. He's like, I can't deal with it this week. So he says to the underwriter Janelle, you're gonna have to just talk to Jeff. And I thought, oh damn it, I thought I was going to pass the buck. And so she's doing this back and forth nonsense, and I said, why can you not just understand that what I'm pointing out to you is lack of training on your team's part, and why can't you just take the responsibility of that? Like, don't cover for her. Just say that underwriter's new. She doesn't understand. I'll go teach her. Like, why are you telling me things that I should be doing when it's your department and it's your problem that's creating a problem for me? And she's like, well, I'm just telling you, if you do, and then she tells me like three things to do so that it makes her job easier. And I was like, Janelle, I've already given you all the information you're asking for, but now what you're asking for is you want me to give you an application, and then you want me to give you an email or like a Word document that says what's in the application. Are you telling me that your underwriters don't know how to read an application? I'm really confused here. And she was like, well, she is one of the newer underwriters. I said, well, then there you go. It's very simple. Go train her. And she's like, well, I have 27 agencies I have to deal with. I said, Janelle, I'm not talking about any other agencies. I'm talking about me and that underwriter and you as her boss. I'm like, what are we talking about here? What are you talking about? 27 other agencies? I don't. It doesn't affect my life at all. I'm like, freaking tell that underwriter. I said if she has to put a little post-it note next to her computer that says when Jeff gives me this is how I'm supposed to do it. I don't care what your internal system is, so that I don't have to keep banging my head against the wall. But I'm not really in the mood for doing this a whole lot longer. Oh my gosh, I was trying to be charitable and then also uh, like very clear. Like that was the most interesting thing about the conversation yesterday was she was giving me so many. You know how like when people like I think the term is gaslight. I don't like to use the term, but that's what she was doing.
Right.
But that's what she was
Right.
doing to me, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna get all pissy with her because it was almost like she was trying to piss me off. I was like, nope, not going to do it. I just want to be clear. This underwriter needs training, and I don't particularly like to send emails that say, "Hey, tell someone to do their job." And I gave them every opportunity. I gave them every opportunity to like understand what the point was. And what was so funny, Bill, was that actually I'll just tell you these two things because this is more just for your entertainment. Um, the one email response I gave, I was I was getting so irritated that I went into my signature line and I deleted the picture of myself. Like in my signature line, I have my photo,
Hmm.
and then I have my contact information. And I went in, I deleted my photo, and I told Torin, my son that works with me, I said, Torin, I went in and did this because I did not want her to think in any way, shape, or form that I had any joy or happiness with this interaction. and I know I have a smile on my face in that picture. And he was like, Dad, that's a little mental. And I'm like, I don't care. I just had to entertain myself.
That's funny. People are
uh,
so strange, you know. In fact, I've in the last week, I've had, gosh, 3 different people get a hold of me to interview me for a podcast
hmm.
out of the blue, right? So I met with this woman the other day.
Oh no.
Oh, it was ugly. She totally just in her head, egotistical. And she had this, she listened to this podcast I did. I can't remember Charlie's last name, but I did with Charlie. It was a really great interview. He had great energy. We really hit it off. And so we start talking, and she thinks there's something wrong with me, right? Because my answers are too short, and she's expecting the person she heard on the podcast was going to show up with the same energy for her call, right?
Hmm.
It was. I said, no, I'm fine. I mean, she didn't say that. I knew that was her problem, her expectation. You know, is there a problem, Bill? Because I mean, you seem to be resistant. I said, no, I'm not resistant. You're asking me questions and I'm answering them. What else would you like me to do? Right. I mean, she was very peculiar, right? I'm a very peculiar, but it was really fascinating. It's going to be interesting. The podcast. I'm going to do the podcast with her. I think what I'm going to do is flip her lesson on top of her in the podcast. I'll talk her into it. I'll corner. I'll corner. We'll do some teaching right on the podcast. We'll talk about expectations.
This thing's never going to see the light of day.
Probably not.
but
So funny.
but if it happens to, please do oblige me and let me know. I'd love to see it.
Well, she thinks a lot of herself. So
Yeah.
you know, and she's doing the one-upmanship on me. And just um it was weird. And then they end up getting pissed off at me.
Mm.
Well, you know, it's just pretty incredible. What's the news on Luke's front?
Um, we let's see here. We well, I met with another client that is just going to be perfect for where what he teaches. So that was pretty fun because every time we get someone who's like a good qualifying candidate for him, like it's something that surprisingly enough, and my team doesn't begin to understand this yet. But like each time you bring a new client in that realm, you're probably each new person is probably like you could put a percentage to how much revenue growth that gave you for the year. Like which that's not the way we usually function. Like it's you bring new people in and like that's good, but they're not moving the needle much. It's just good constant. Um, like if I look year on year from last year, my revenues aren't up. But like if we add in like just that one client, like all of a sudden my revenues might be up 50% immediately. So it's a pretty seismic shift on every time we bring someone new to the table. And I'll be curious to see, Bill, how this all goes. Because just logic tells me that you're going to miss some still. Like even if people say this is a great idea, it's not like I have any wild fantasy that we're going to go 10 for 10 on that. Um, but I'd like to still go 8 for 10. And I think that would be crazy good. So it's just kind of interesting. And this is no like putting the cart before the horse, but it's just a lot of fun to reveal to somebody that they could save several $100,000 in taxes, and then also know like they don't know what the process is, but like I know whether or not they're going to qualify, and if they don't qualify, you don't put a square peg in a round hole.
Hmm.
But if they do qualify, it's such significant tax savings. Like it's hard to fathom that you wouldn't get everybody. I'm just saying, like human nature is what it is, and there's going to be people who are going to dawdle around, or I have to go.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I have to go do something more important that's not important, and stuff like that. So, but it's what Luke promises me is because you have to have this stuff wrapped up by year end. Like it's not like uh this is a good idea. Maybe I'll work on it in January. Like he's like, every he said every day between now and the end of the year, you're one day closer to having them start to gain some pace because he's like, yeah, this time of year they still feel like they got lots of time.
Hmm.
But he's like, there is no. We have one extra day. He's like, it's a hard stop, and he goes, and also because I don't want stress beyond what I'm already going to have. When we get to October, if they're not fully all in, I'm telling them that they're going to unfortunately have to wait. Uh,
Next year.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they beg and they plead, and he's like, and if they beg and plead, he's like, you can literally saddle them up, and he's like, and it has to be like, you have to do things on my timeline, or we're just going to cut it, and it's like, okay. So I love that because all the deadlines and timelines we give clients
Hmm.
are they're not really fake, but they're vague because like
Hmm.
you could give them some influence to say, hey, you're about to have another birthday, and your insurance prices are going to go up on your birthday, or you could say, your money's not in the right spot, and if we have a market change, like that could be a problem. And so that stuff's real, but they also don't think like things like, oh, I could become disabled tomorrow, oh, I could be dead tomorrow, oh, I could, fill in the blank of things that could happen,
Hmm.
but they just think it's a low, and it is a low percentage, and so it's good, but it's such a low percentage that they just assume that they always have one more day to take care of the thing. So I'm excited about that. I didn't have any uh, direct conversation with Luke. On Monday, we did sit down with the new team, and I will say over the course of this week, um, I had quite a lot of additional learnings about how that new team will operate. Number one, there's some real good resources there, so that was exciting to see. Number two, some of the things were maybe not quite as advertised, and they're not like they're not damning. They're just like, okay, well, I didn't know it was going to be quite like that, so I have to adjust for that in my thinking. That I got through in mostly in a day, so that wasn't a big, what really a big deal. It just, anything you're like, well, that sounds a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. You just have to kind of work, do a workaround. Um, I will say I had a aha moment on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that wasn't my favorite aha moment. I had told you before that this health thing was like my number one bugaboo.
Hmm.
Um, and I was just thinking rather short term, like over the next 30 to 60 days kind of time frame. But I didn't think about, well, let's take a worst case scenario. What if it takes me 6 months to plug everything back in the way that it was plugged in? And that that left me in a place where I, according to the banks, it would look like I had started a new job. So, like, you know how banks are. It's like
Mm,
if you've been somewhere for over 2 years, they just think that's marvelous. But
right.
if you haven't been there in 2 years, like they're just like, oh, I don't know if we can work with this, which is totally insane because I've worked for myself for 17 years. So, like,
Hmm.
the idea that I have a statutory W-2 arrangement with insurance companies, it's so funny, Bill, because they are like, well, you're not actually an employee. And I'm like, yeah, I know that's what a statutory W-2 is. And they're like, well, then we have to just treat you as a business owner. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And then the same stupid underwriter says, oh, but you went from Guardian to Mass Mutual. I'm like, wait a second. If I'm a business
No, I'm
owner,
I'm buying my tomatoes from a different farmer.
it's dude, seriously, it is it is so funny. They're like, I'm like, well, you're not treating me as a W-2. They're like, right. So I'm like, so what are you talking about? Like, you're basically talking about what vendors I use. Like, what? But I'm telling you, Bill, it'll be a problem. And I really just realized that when I get up on
Well, who are you talking to?
what banks?
Yeah. Why are you talking to banks?
Well, because um, my arrangement for the mortgage for the house in Tennessee, um, technically in October, there's an option that um, should be extended to me. I'm going absolute worst case scenario here. There's an option that's supposed to be extended to me that allows me to continue my current arrangement,
Uh-huh.
but that option has to be extended to me. Now, in the language, what it says is as long as I've made every payment on time, which I have, that it's kind of like an auto option. Like, so even though
Right.
it's an option,
And what is the option?
well, just to extend it.
For how
The
long? Is it stated?
just 12 months.
Okay. But that has nothing to do with the question I asked. Why are you talking to banks?
Well, I'm not talking to banks, but I'm saying that if this were to take 6 months, let's say, and we get out to October and some knucklehead on the other side decides, well, it says that, but Bill, you've been there before, like where
Yeah, but that's not a problem, because you know, I mean, you'd have 6 months to put the deal together, right? I mean, it takes that long to foreclose if they were going to foreclose.
yeah, well,
I mean, you don't want to be in that position, but there's nothing they can do. But why not be talking to a broker?
no, I understand that, Bill. I just use banks ubiquitously. Okay,
Uh,
but a broker doesn't have different underwriting than, like, the underwriters are underwriters. I understand that banks have different
oh,
overlays
that's
and
not,
everything.
no,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
I don't agree with that. Okay.
Well,
Um, because, uh, they're, you, underwriters are underwriters. However, there's a manner in which the stories are presented,
yeah,
and there are facilities there that are looking to loan money. Banks aren't, so they're looking why they shouldn't,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Uh, but so
Well,
why not get started on it now?
um, well, mainly because I don't have all my ducks in a row to have that make
Hmm.
sense. That's unfortunately the answer.
Right.
My utilization right now is too high, which is cramping my
Hmm.
credit score.
Hmm.
So I that's
So why not go to what type of contract did you do?
How do you mean?
What's the contract on the house with the option? Is
Well,
it a
it's
lease purchase?
oh,
Is he
oh,
carrying it?
no, yeah. Sorry. So I have it's a subject to deal. So I'm they still
It's a
have,
wrap.
yeah, it's a wrap on a
Yeah.
subject to, yeah.
So why don't you just go to him and prep him for the option?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Why don't we just start there?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and be honest with him, um, and just get him prepped for it.
Yeah.
Like, you're paying him. What's the do you know um what the boot is, what the difference is between his loan and how much of a chunk of equity he has in there?
He has, relative to let's so he let's just say he owes 400,000 on the house, something like that.
Right.
And then like I have like about 400 ish out with them.
Hmm.
So it's probably at this point like probably pretty close to 50-50 ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on your payments to him, what's the due date on those? What day of the month?
They well first of the
The
month.
first. Okay.
I usually wire them anywhere from 2 weeks to a week early.
Yeah, hit him at least a week early with it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Number
been,
one.
but I've been doing that all along, just because I was like, I don't care. Like,
That's
yeah, I just
very
figured,
important.
yeah, I just figured I might as well just be. And even if what's funny is, even if I have a month that I'm like, this could be kind of a sketchy month, I'm just like, well, I'm just wiring them the money because I have it in hand, and then I'll deal with sketchiness with somebody else, but it's not going to be sketchy because I don't have the money to give him.
No, that's very smart.
Yeah,
So my recommendation is to call him and take his temperature.
yeah,
And I mean, just I would go at him and say, "Hey, it looks like I'm going to need another year." Just lay it on him, right?
yeah,
It's no sweat off, it's no sweat off his back,
right.
um, unless there's something that he really needed the boot for, the 400 or whatever it is.
Well, so
Uh,
the way we wrote it up, Bill, honestly, I don't. It's kind of like, if I paid everything on time, it's supposed to be an auto option of yes, because
oh,
when he,
I got it.
yeah,
I got it. But what you want to do is go in there on a relationship basis now.
okay,
Okay.
yeah,
You just go in on a relationship basis and just just warm him up to say, hey, here's the way it looks right now. I just want to, just want to touch base with you and, you know, make sure you're well aware, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Uh, and in doing that, then you get to take his temperature. Um, and as far as the option is concerned, I mean, it either is or isn't. What you're explaining to me sounds like there might be some iffiness in it, and I mean, it should either be or not be.
Well,
Um,
it's not. I don't. What I'm saying is there's not iffiness. I'm just saying. I'm just like literally. I'm going like, is there anything weird that could come up in the next 12 months? Was kind of like how I started thinking of things, and I was like, well, we do have this. We do have this. We're going to be at the 24-month mark, believe it or not, already this October, and
wow, that's crazy.
I know it is crazy. So like we bought it.
Yeah.
We bought it October 23. But he initially, when we were doing the deal, said he only wanted to hold note for 2 years, and I said, I've done real estate long enough to know that 2 years flies by, and I said I am not comfortable with a 2 year window.
Mhm.
I am comfortable with a 3 year window, and so I don't know if you remember me saying like a few months back, it might have been like 6 months back, I said something about like I was thinking about trying to figure out how to remortgage this out, and you were like, why would you? Like that's kind of crazy because you've got a good deal right now, and so I understand that. I just was taking the temperature of the banks and seeing what products were available and stuff like that. I wasn't giving credit scores or anything like that, but I just wanted to see like, hey, when I go to flip this, what's going to be required? And but anyway, just the other day, because like in my mind I'm like, I do have another year and several months, like in my, like I believe I have that. I'm just saying that it literally says in the paperwork it's a 2 year it's a 2 year arrangement with an option of a third year as long as payments are made on time is kind of roughly how it's worded. So it's not like there's
Well,
not
but
well,
roughly how it's worded is what's bothering
no,
me.
I know that, but I had the upper hand on this in the sense that it was my attorney that wrote it up, and
Right.
they, I mean, they would not be in a good spot if they don't, if for some reason they're just like, they don't give me that quote option. I'm using the word option. I'm not sure if that's like the right extension. Might be. It's like it's auto extended pending payments on time. Because all they were worried about was, what if in the short term this doesn't work? Like, are we going to
Right.
get stuck with a house again? At this point, I don't think they're really concerned about that because property values have continued to go up around this area. So their
Well,
prop, they're
but here's the point, though.
yeah,
Here's the point.
yeah,
Okay, is money likes conversation.
yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and that's
So
actually
you have a
really good.
conversation with him and say, look, I just want to fill you in. Here's where it's at. Here's what's going on. Um, you know, and just it's a courtesy, right?
Yeah, no,
Be,
I think that's smart,
because
and
well,
that make
if
yeah,
because they may be thinking, they may be thinking, they're going to take a cruise around the world when that cash comes in, and yeah, we can leave for the winter. And then they hear from Jeff in October and say, no, it's going to be another year. They go into reaction where this way you've got this all this buffer time on it.
yeah.
And not that it could or will be a problem. It's just,
I
like I said, money likes to hear if you're talking
I think
to them.
that if I had to guess, they just assume because of the way everything went that we are going, and so like there's a part of me that's like, well, it doesn't really require anything because like I think they're already on board. But to your point, which I actually really appreciate that perspective of, like what's the harm in just saying, hey, just so you know, we're coming up on the 2 year mark, and uh, my intention is that we'll keep going as we are because I've been able to make the payments on time to you, and if that I just want to make sure we were both on the same page or something like that. Um, is
Yeah, I wouldn't
probably
even, I don't even know that I would go into that, you know. I would just let him know. I'd say, I'd let him know, uh, hey, I'm upgrading my business and um had to move cash here and there to take care of the upgrade.
yeah.
Whatever. Just something, not that it's just want to let you know, I'm definitely going to take the full extension on this.
Yep.
And it's not like you're not calling for permission and you're not calling to say there's any problem. You might even just say you're planning on taking the full extension on it and wanted to make sure that that you remain you got in, you're in communication with him. Uh and that's it.
Yeah. No, I like that, and that actually would
Because people don't normally handle it that way,
right, right.
That's like when I had that house in Las Vegas and I couldn't pay the guy, right?
Yeah.
And I just went down to his office with my file and said, "Hey, I can't pay you." I was face to face with him, you know,
Yep.
and he had tremendous uh respect for the fact that I'd come and talk to him.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, you let me know whatever you want to do. It's fine with me. Whatever your choice is." I didn't expect him to say what he said, you know, but his response was, "Oh fuck, I don't need the money. Just keep paying me." I mean, we didn't even put anything on paper. We did nothing. I just kept, but I had been paying him a week early every month too,
Yeah.
right? And when I walked in the office and the receptionist was there, she knew who I was immediately. You know, um, it the whole the credibility in the whole situation because I was making those payments early was very significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I just figured that was a winning way. Like you don't
Absolutely.
I didn't want them to even think about me.
Right.
I I I,
Exactly.
I didn't, because like the thing is with banks, like some knucklehead decides they're not going to send the wire today, and they didn't get to it till tomorrow morning, and it's a day late, and this that. I was just like, no, thank you. I'm just
Hmm.
gonna get it out of my hands,
Yeah.
get it into
Very
theirs.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
it's if you know the most important thing is you want to give no matter you don't know what's going on with them and
yeah,
you want to give them settling in time
yeah,
if in case they're thinking of some different plans,
yeah,
so you're not again, it isn't in October.
yeah, yeah,
uh it's now and it's like, yeah, well, that's hey, he's making the payments on time and we'll make this adjustment, we'll do this, you know and again, I'm not your clarity on the contract isn't real strong with me, but that doesn't really matter. What really matters is how the guy's going to respond
yeah,
anyway, right?
yeah,
Whether it's in the contract or not, it's still a matter
yeah.
of how he's what his plans are.
I got a buddy that does a bunch of the subject to and rap stuff and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
he was like,
I wrote a bunch of those contracts when I was in real estate. Yeah.
he was like, uh you should pay him on time, and then like no matter what you signed on for, he's like, you should go back and sell them on the fact that they should stay in this arrangement for another 5 years because it's working so good for everybody. and
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, I was like,
That's a great suggestion. In
yeah.
fact, you might even bring that up on the call. What kind of interest are you paying him?
Uh, so I pay him five,
Uh-huh.
and and the mortgage that we're subject to is like 4.3, 4.4, something like that. It's sub five. So
Yeah, but there's on these subject twos,
yeah,
there's a huge factor here that you probably never considered. Okay.
yeah.
Uh, and that is this. Is this an interest only?
Uh, no, actually, neither of them are. I wanted it to be, but they had already come my way on so many different things.
What do
I
you
just
do it on a 30-year fixed?
yeah,
Okay. But even at that, okay, if if you run the amortization table, he's making money on that,
oh yeah,
right? Because because I don't know how long he had been in the house, how long he'd had the mortgage,
yeah,
but he had aging on his mortgage and you were starting out fresh. So you're making these payments to him and you're making a, I don't know, $4,000 payment to him and $2.50 is going to principal.
yeah.
But on his end,
It's more.
uh it's significantly more
Yeah.
depending upon how long he's had that, right? So he's making a lot of money. He's actually, that, and
Well,
he
he's
may not,
the
it's
way the way
playing
this.
into his return.
Well, no, not necessarily, not actually, because what's what's happening on the initial mortgage is like when we square this up, all that I have to clear up is what's left on that note, and then what's left on the note to him. So when I pay down principal, so like when I give him the payment to make the payment, that principal reduction over on the first mortgage is actually to my benefit. It doesn't affect him at all. Like that's just he's just a conduit in that part of it. Um, so
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, 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 yeah. But that's how he didn't
So
knowing
you
that
froze, you froze. How the hell was that structured? How do you
it's
separate the two? You you
it's two
so you
it's
determined
it's two separate agreements.
you have two separate agreements.
Well,
Did
it's yeah. So there's
attorney came up with this?
yeah. He does a lot of this. He does a lot of this, and that's how I tracked
That's
him.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not it's. I understand what you're saying. Like you're saying, like if I was giving him $4,000 a month, that I understand what you said, but that's why
Well, the
they're
only thing I'm saying is the aging reduction on the first note that you got the wrap on
yeah,
is more significant
yeah.
than the aging you're getting.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what the difference is in it, but if your attorney did it that way, that's like crazy.
yeah. It's good. It's really good. So
Yeah.
and it's not. What's interesting is if it's a $50,000 cottage, uh, it doesn't look the same as that's a $400,000 mortgage that we're deep enough into it. It's not like we're 20 years into it. Okay, like we're probably like 5 or 6 years into it. But even at
Hmm.
five or six
Yeah.
years, but even at 5 or 6 years into it, when you're giving them $4,000, it is making some headway on the principal. I don't know how
There's,
much, but it's
yeah.
so it's kind of
Well,
like it's kind of like the longer we can stay in this arrangement, the easier it is to solve for every month. because we are taking some swings at principal, not a lot, but it's moving in the right direction. So
right. Well, it isn't that. It's just that you're gaining that advantage, which is pretty amazing. But
yeah,
anyway, it would be, um, I'd let him know that you're going to want that extra year and ask him if he'd want to go any longer.
yeah,
Okay. he may not have any need for that money, and he's getting paid lickety split. Uh, he's got, it's it's nice. It's nice to have a check like that coming in every month.
Yeah.
Um, from his standpoint, is at that 5%, 5, 4, 20. So he's picking up $1,800 a month
Yeah.
income. And out of that $1,800 a month income, the principal reduction isn't going down very far for him, because you've got a fresh loan with him, right? On his
Yeah.
piece of it. So I mean, that's a nice income stream for somebody like that. So he may want, it may be appealing to him to keep the income stream for a while.
Yeah.
It's worth the ask for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I, if I was gonna hunch at it, I would hunch that the only reason they wouldn't want to do it, because like what you just said, all makes sense. The only reason they might not want to do it is
Well, there could
mortgage is
be a,
still in their name, and so like they just might want that off
yeah,
the.
but that's a mute point. That's a mute point.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Well, you're paying him, if you're paying him in advance, like you said, it's a mute
Yeah,
point.
you're right. You're right.
And the fact of the matter is this, okay? You fuck up. He's the one that comes in and forecloses,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like he's got tremendous collateral. He's in good shape.
It's so funny you say that because I don't get into that this much right now because so many of my clients have these little baby mortgages where they're in at like 3% and 3.5% mortgages. So no one really makes
Hmm.
extra payments on a mortgage now or tries to
Hmm.
make it. No one does that. Um, but when you went back a number of years, and let's just say we are at 6%, 7% mortgages, people would make extra payments on their mortgages all the time because of all the quote interest they said they were saving themselves. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
which isn't true, but
I know. I'm like, you do understand that. First of all, the calculation you're giving me is 30 years out from now. Like your interest savings is 30 years out from now, and like there's no
there's no
guarantee.
return on it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no return on it either. And so, but I would tell them, I'm like, you guys do know that every payment you make on a mortgage, like every single payment you make every month, it puts you at a higher level of risk with the bank. Now, you don't think that, but let me explain why I say that. Is like, how much equity do you think the bank has to have in the property for them to be willing to sell it for pennies on the dollar? Like, do you think that
Right.
when like the bank has gotten paid back 50%, like don't you think that they would sell off, like foreclose on your house and sell it for 50 cents on the dollar if they already had the 50% of the equity? Like, do you follow why I'm saying that? And they're like, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, well, so basically what you're doing, what you think is more safe by making these extra payments, but you're actually doing something that's less safe. Like you're actually, because there's only two safe positions with the bank, right? It's 100% financed or 0% financed. Like everywhere else in between, the bank has like an opinion on it. So if you're 100% financed, you can just tell them to here's the keys and piss off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, but
Yeah.
I haven't had that conversation in a while because of where rates were. So it's kind of funny how things change.
Yeah, it would just be good to keep him informed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're kind of taking his temperature at the same time. Uh, and so what is the whole thing with the loop timing now? What are you seeing now with it?
Well, I have to go in and see um, some timeline on my securities, because now, mind you, this is a small consideration, but it's still a consideration. Um, I have to look at the timing on the securities because at the end of a quarter, which we're coming up on,
Hmm.
they do a calculation and they say, okay, well, Jeff has several, X million dollars, to assets under management, and so we're due to pay him. Let's just say the number's $12,000. Um, and so we look at the $12,000 and that's due to you, Jeff. But they're not going to give it to me on July 1st. They're not going to give it to me on July 2nd. I have to go figure out exactly when that payment is due to come,
Hmm.
uh, because they will very quickly bypass me if I'm not still on the books. Now, what I'm saying it's not a huge consideration is like Luke's opinion on it is, hey, don't be like cavalier about that. Like, don't just like leave a week early and miss out on 12 grand. He said, so just figure out the timing issue there. And he said, I don't think it's worth waiting around for an extensive period of time. But he's like, if the difference is I leave week 1 or week 3, he's like, just leave week 3 and then get your payout. So,
Are
so
you saying that that even if you're there at the end of the quarter and then you leave a week later, let's say you leave on July 7th, that they wouldn't pay you? They'd still owe you the money.
yeah, I'm saying
They
I'm
wouldn't have
saying
any choice.
I'm saying that Luke, in my opinion on that is, if they can skip it, they're going to try to. I mean, I know I would have earned it, but you have to be in good standing to receive the commission, and I know it doesn't sound right because you're like, well, you got the commission, so they have to give it to you. Luke and I just are we're just not so sure that that's going to actually play out that way. Like I know it sounds like they should. I just don't know that they will. And so that's why he was just like, find out when you're supposed to get paid on that so that you can just not have
Hmm.
it turn into a thing. Because Bill,
So anyway, are you saying that you're going to make this change by mid-July?
yeah, probably. I think I'll probably do it right after the second, like the last business cycle in July, which will be like probably third week.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, cool. Cool. You feel like everything's coming together good? How's the Vistage piece going?
It's good. I took serious reins on that one this week, um, because Luke's so funny. He is totally hands off on this, and he basically sent an email to everyone that's supposed to be working on this and said, "I don't think you guys are that committed to doing this. So you either give me a timeline on when you're going to have it ready, or I'm just gonna pull the plug on it." Because he's like, I don't, you know, it's really interesting, Bill. Like the people that are working on the project with me, it's just like every group project I've ever been in school where I don't know, people just like magically think things are going to happen. Like if they put their tooth under the pillow, there's going to be $1 there in the morning. And I'm just like, you know what? I just, I just got a little bit fed up with it the other day, and I just was like, I, Marcy, who's probably going to be the one who does most of the speaking. She, she's the only one that was really doing much work on it. And these others, well, specifically the one guy is just a total yes man, and he wants to look like he's doing stuff, but I'm like, I know his game, so I was like, all right, screw this. So I went into what Marcy, because Marcy doesn't know what she's doing, but she's just trying real hard, and I give a lot of credit to someone who's at least putting in the effort.
Hmm.
So I went in and um
Well, however, there would be some cause for concern if uh Steve's struggling or lost with it.
No, 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 no. She's not. She's not. It's not that. It's that she doesn't. I mean, she's just she didn't get in the door much before I did. But I just have way more experience than she does, and she's trying her best, but she just there's a couple things like just I'm just saying she didn't understand. She hears all the words, but she didn't necessarily understand like, well, what are the most important aspects of all those words? So she just basically threw up on the page essentially, and I was like, yeah, there's a couple things that are not technically correct here, and it was just me being like a school teacher where I had the red pen out and I just was like, here's some things like you're saying this, but that's not actually the key point. And so we're sharing documents on Teams, and um and that's been really helpful because I just go in and she takes a swing. It's kind of like 80-20 rule. She's taking a swing and putting 80% of it out there, and then I come in and get the other 20% all tightened up. And
Mhm.
and she's also like, I'll just say like very she uses ChatGPT a lot to try to help her with her content. So that's why there's some things that are a little bit off. It's not that she's off, it's just that she's just generating and pushing in the right direction, but she's not at this point a technical expert on that space. And I think she will be quickly. She just needs some guidance. So I'm not worried about her. I understand what you just said. I'm not worried about her.
Mhm.
But I these guys are crack me up though. They're just like, well, we got to get this done by next week. I said, guys, if this was due tonight, I could have it finished. Okay, like let's just be. Can we just be realistic for a second? Like, if this was a term paper due tomorrow, we just would knuckle down and do it. Okay. But the problem is, no one, like, we've been giving ourselves soft deadlines. No one's doing any work in between the deadlines. And then we get to the next meeting and we just talk
Just-
about stuff. Like we don't make any progress. So I just started driving this week. Like I grabbed
Mhm.
I grabbed the reins and I started driving it, and then I was
Oh, that's
telling,
good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so yesterday they were like still pulling this like, what should we name it? What should I was like, guys, you can freaking call it Bob's your uncle for all I care. That's not what Luke cares about. What Luke cares about is he wants to see the finished presentation. And so but then they were like, well, we don't know what slide we need for this. I said, listen to me. Uh, you guys all met Parson. That's my oldest son. I said, he's on payroll for Luke. I said, this is what he loves to do. This is not in any of our wheelhouse, like finding stock photos to put in a.
Well, that's my issue with her is if she's going to be doing the presentations, um, she should have more awareness of what the hell should be in it. The steps of it at least. But anyway,
Well, I don't disagree with you. All I will say is, um, if if you can't just divine that. Like she does. I couldn't tell you step 1 through 10 of what you have to do. Um, that's what these other knuckleheads should be doing because they've been involved with it. But anyway, yesterday I distilled out. I just and by the way, she's willing to put in the work to be at whatever level I need her to be at.
hmm
Like I've been meeting with her once a week, um, for like 2 hours to do some other stuff that has nothing to do with Vistage. And
hmm
she's very quick on the uptake, and I mean, this doesn't answer any questions, but she's like, uh I don't know if I never spent any time around Tony Robbins or any of that crap, but I know like people love his stuff. What's funny is she's been around that, and she hangs out with their platinum group. Now she's not in the platinum group.
Hmm.
She does some sort of administrative role with Tony Robbins that lets her kind of like hang out around platinum without actually paying the money. So it's like
Hmm.
she does like I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of like when you were giving Dustin a hand at Speaking Empire or whatever. It's like she's like around it, but she's not actually
Yeah.
in it or
Yeah.
whatever. So anyway, do you know that those jokers, when they sign on, pay him 85 grand,
Oh yeah.
and then and
Yeah.
then and then they drop it down to only 65,000 a year after that.
And on top of that, they've got to pay for the trips.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
That
so
doesn't include the trips.
I had no idea that that was the price point.
Oh
She
yeah.
she, she told me that. I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, "What did you just say?" And she's like, "Yeah." So like that's who, like, she knows all these people in that platinum group. Like she knows
Hmm.
them. So she's like, she already is setting me up with one of them to meet with, I think, next week. And she's like, I mean, Bill, I'm telling you, like it's going to be like it's going to be a multi six figure commission. No worries. Like she told me the background. Oh, they make 1 million a year. This, that, and the other
Hmm.
thing. I was like, I said, what did Luke say about this? She goes, Luke said he was too busy. Talk to Jeff. so so anyway, but Marcy and her husband Andre they're actually really sharp. And so, like, the people who are like, they work real hard, but they don't have any skills to be able to make them as successful as they could be. She's pretty unique in that she is willing to put in the work, and she's smart enough that she will get it. So like, I get what you're saying. I'm not.
Hmm.
I
I'm
just,
just throwing it out there.
yeah, no, I don't have the same concern there that you do, but I understand. I appreciate what you're saying. So
Yeah.
they are so any
Well, I'll say this. I'll say this for sure. You know, you're going to be you're going to have to be involved in the initial
yeah,
presentations and such.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Like she's you know what am I trying to say? Well, there's people like you and me. It's like, well, just give me the axe, I'll go clear the path.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? And it's like, you know which direction? No, I'll figure it out when I get there. Don't worry.
exactly, exactly. Well, do you know that,
And there's other people that don't have that ability.
of course, yeah. So that's what Luke is like as well. And um, I figured out, like, I'm very visual, so I figured out how to draw out for a client what Luke tells clients. So Luke just uses words, and
Hmm.
he doesn't. It's weird. It's like he gets away with it, but he doesn't understand that if he used just a few visuals, it would make his job a lot easier. So how he gets people on his into his boat is they understand very quickly that he's really smart and that
Hmm.
he can help them. But he doesn't actually, like, I think sometimes on the front end they don't understand what the hell he's talking about whatsoever. They just know, wow, this guy could save me some money or whatever. So anyway, I've been working on a schematic that I can whiteboard to just show people visually the words that I'm using. And I said to the team yesterday, I said, "Hey, can I show you guys something that I do to explain this?" And I drew it out for them, and I didn't use all my scripting, but I just kind of showed them how I set it up and how I drew it out. And they were like, "Holy crap! Like, we don't have anything like that. Like, we don't have anything to show what we're saying."
Hmm.
And so then last night I got with my son Parson and I said, "Look, because and we recorded it twice now. I've recorded it several times, but we recorded it for Parson twice so that he could see exactly the order of how the slide populates. And he's actually taking what and I told Marcy yesterday, I said, you have to be able to whiteboard it exactly as I'm doing it here in case the bulb burns out on the projector, in case the electric goes out and they're still willing to sit in the room and you have a whiteboard. I'm like, you have to be able to do this on a whiteboard, even if you can never use your PowerPoint again.
Hmm.
And so she was like really stoked because I've heard Luke's team, multiple of them, try to say what the hell this is, and I'm like, every one of them, like, it's not compelling. And I was like, there has to be a way to make this more compelling. And so I showed the diagram, and they were all just like, that's like literally genius. And I'm like, oh, I was like, well, I want you guys to shoot holes in it or tell me like what I'm missing here. And they were like, no, that freaking nails it. And I was like, well, don't just give me a thumbs up. Like, think about it and keep thinking about it. And if there's anything we can add
Hmm.
to it to make it better, let's do that. So that was like really cool. And I actually developed another little module this week. It's not Luke's stuff, but it's just like helpful to me and my clients. And that one I was so stoked about. I called Caden and I said, I just figured something out. And I told him what I figured out, and then I told him the scripting around it.
Hmm.
And he's like, that is actually crazy good. And I was like, yeah. I said, I said, I did it almost accidentally. And then I said, when I figured out something I've been trying to figure out for like 5 years.
Hmm.
And so Caden's like, I told him, I said, but it can't just be kind of like that. I said, I used very specific language on purpose when I just explained that to you. And he goes, no, I know you did. He's like, I was writing it down as you were talking. And I said,
Hmm.
oh, okay, but I didn't know what that meant. And then he took a picture like and sent it to me. And he didn't just write it down, like he was whiteboarding it as I was talking, like steps 1 through 8, and like of the order and how I approached it. And I was like, dang, that was almost as good as transcription services on AI. but he was pretty psyched about it too. So this was like a really fun week of uh like I felt like we got a good revolution on the ball, and I feel like there was a lot of good creativity and expansion going on. So that's basically
Cool.
how I wrap up the week. It was a good week in that sense. So
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, good. Good.
yeah,
Well, give some thought to your guy with the mortgage, and
yeah,
I think that's the I think that's the big thing.
yeah. It is.
Yeah. And then I've got to jump on another call,
Yep.
and I'll send off the summary to you. Did you got how did you like it last week, the summary?
Honestly, I didn't go in and review it yet. That
Okay.
uh, there are
Here's here's what I suggest,
yeah,
okay, with it is when you get it, review it quickly Monday morning, okay?
yeah.
So this because what will happen if you give it a quick perusal, a couple of points are going to pop out and then
Hmm.
get seeded in a little deeper.
Yeah, yeah,
When you see it in writing, it makes a big difference.
yeah,
Uh, it makes a big difference when you see it, and it isn't. You don't have to sit down, study it, read the whole thing. You can file it. You can do whatever you want with it.
yeah.
Uh, but having it in writing is a great reinforcement.
No,
The,
I think for like for coaching purposes, this is like because back when we first started working together, you'd teach me something, I'd be trying to jot it down or whatever, and
Mhm.
you kind of got after me about like it just created like a disconnect that
Mhm.
wasn't useful for our conversation. So I've intentionally for years now just like I
Mhm.
I get in a
Trusted that.
I get in a comfortable position and I just kind of
Mhm.
listen and we talk, and there's times that I sometimes like, man, I wish
Mhm.
I could remember exactly how he said that. And so now I'll have it.
Well, Yeah. And at a minimum, copy and paste copy it and paste it right into ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that.
Throw it right in there, at a minimum. Because
Yeah,
that's
I gotta build that. I gotta start having
oh,
that be like my way of doing things because like that's that. I'm not. I
it's
haven't. It's
it's
not part of my flow
crazy,
yet.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Yeah, you want to put that in there. It's crazy. Like I'm doing this whole, did I tell you about the new books I'm writing?
yeah. You did. You told me how that was going. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I've got two of them done, right?
Oh, two now. Yeah.
Yeah, two in 2 weeks.
I,
Um,
I was trying to tell Robin and Mira and Emerson about how you had done that, and you should have heard the bullshit flack back from all three of them. But here's why.
you can't really talk about it because they think it's cheating.
Well, no, it's because they think that it's all like AI generated out of AI, and I was like,
That's what I'm saying.
and
Or that's what I'm saying.
I said, you guys aren't listening to me. Listen to me a second. He took hundreds and hundreds of hours of coaching calls and loaded it in and had the information extracted from his content. So get out of here with that. So like it was so freaking. It was actually a funny
It's
conversation.
Let me tell you what, hey, well, and that's why I don't talk about it.
Yeah, I won't. I decided I
I
wouldn't
don't talk
either.
about because that's where people are going to go. They don't get it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and you know, if there's anything that I teach, it's authenticity.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no, to, like I went through all of these and dummied some of the words down because AI, little nuances, nothing major. It was very minimal, but I had to literally went through the entire book. Um, it has a way of explaining my concepts. It's 100 times better than I can explain it.
That's
And
crazy.
and what I'm ending up with, um, I've got the let's find this. I've got the photo of the photos I'm going to use are at the publisher for all three books right now. Um, but the first one is Universal Perceptions, a guide to living your highest vibration. The second book is, I mean, I've got to look them up. I can't even remember them. I've got so much that I've done. Uh, where the hell did I put it? Oh, there it is. Um, The Energetic Self, An Introduction to Your Body's Wisdom is the name of the second book. Uh, so it's 3 steps through energy. And then what came from this, as you go along, you get more clarity. What came from it, uh, I'll pull up the third one. I've got so much stuff. Like I've been putting in these crazy hours trying to get this all done. Yeah. The first one's Universal Perceptions, a guide to living your highest vibration. The second book is The Energetic Self, an introduction to your body's wisdom. And the third one is Everyday Enlightenment, trusting your energetic compass.
Hmm.
Um, really breaking it down into more finite uh, information. And uh, I've got the first and second one done. They're unbelievable. They're unbelievable. The information's so good. It's got it broken out so far. It is that's my whole purpose, is to really memorialize what I've been teaching. So it's wild, but that's why, anyways. Yeah, just take the summary and copy and paste it into Chat GPT. It'll come back and remind you, like your
Yeah.
brawny guy.
Well, it's funny. Ever since I put in what I asked it about me, every time I go to search something that I know is darn well not on point of my mission, I'm getting like I'm like, oh man, I know I know I'm being judged right now. Like I'm sitting at Dollywood yesterday going, um, hey, what's the best itinerary for traveling through the park, and what are the wait times, and are there fireworks tonight, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna get absolutely murdered the next time I ask how I'm doing. It's gonna
In
be like
fact,
it's gonna be like, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun. Are you on mission, you jackass?
it's amazing. Like, two things. One, I've gotten rid of all subscriptions to everything except for HBO Max and Peacock, because I like watching the European cycling races. I love watching them.
Oh yeah.
Love watching those. But anyways, I'm watching the Criterium Dauphiné that's going on in France right now, and they switched the announcers the second day. So I went into Gemini and said, "What the hell's going on?" Boom! It comes back and says, "Oh well, they just use those two announcers for the first day to get a lot more attention because they're known more around the world. Now the European network has it, and it gave me all the details on it, right?
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
was. And then I'm going to approach. There's a community kind of newspaper here in Vermont. It's real in Burlington. It's really big. It's called 7 Days. And I said, how should I approach 7 Days, about these books to have them write a story on me here? They gave me all the people's names, their phone numbers, everything. It's like, this is crazy,
Hmm.
crazy. Yeah, you want to talk to so and so? She's the head editor. Here's her direct line. Here's her email. And here's what you want to write about yourself. Here's what you want to do. I'm like, this is nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, wild stuff. Okay, I got to jump.
All right, say pal.
All
Talk to you.
right, bye bye.